welcome to the 149th edition of Beer Issues. My name is Matt Brucker, and I'm coming to you live here from our studios at Sante Brucker, where we're going to be having another outstanding beer. Today, we're going to be having a beer, which I've been wanting to have for a while because I have these beautiful glasses that match it. This is the from Kazmatten Brewery in Belgium. This is the Grotten Sante, or Sante Grotten. I'm not sure which goes first, but I've always called it the Grotten Sante, which is a Belgian brown ale. So let's go ahead and open this up. Now, this one that I've got has been aged a while. When I say aged a while, I bought it when it was already aged a while. So I'm hoping that doesn't affect the quality of the beer. But the beer clocks in at 85 out of 100, which makes it a very good beer. It clocks in at 6.5% alcohol by volume. So it's a little bit higher than your normal lager or something like that, but definitely right in that range of the brown beer range. Now, the reason I'm pouring this super slow and trying not to get too much of a head on there is because of the sediment, and there is quite a bit of sediment in here. I kind of checked that out before I decided to do the beer issues. So let's go ahead and talk about this beer, okay? You see the more brownish reddish color, and when I smell it, I'll know whether this beer is still good or not, but it should be. It is quite a bit out of date though. So I think the beer's fine. It's definitely on the edge, and I wanted to go ahead and do this one and have it out before it actually turned. You do get the smell of like ripe fruit, and it's super sweetness in there. And then I smell, I believe, some almost like a caramel, which is typical for a brown ale. Now, the difference between like a Belgian brown ale, an American brown ale, or even an English brown ale, they're all slightly different, but typically your Belgian browns, sometimes they'll call them doubles, very similar type things, but they're going to be a little bit sweeter as to where your American brown ales are going to have a little bit more hop to it. The American brown, American brewers think that everything needs to be hoppy. As to where the Belgians, they're not as much into it. They make typically a sweeter beer. And then the English brown ales, they tend to be kind of like a little bit, they got a little bit of the hops, but not the heavy hops like the typical American brown ale might have. So, and it all really depends on who's brewing it. The different small breweries could have a different interpretation. They might go more for the Belgian style and make a sweeter finish, as to where I've noticed a lot of them, when they make the brown ales, they make it with that hoppiness. So, smells good. So I'm going to go ahead and dig into this. The color, like I said, it's a brown ale, but it's coming in a little bit more red. So we're going to go ahead and dig into this. And I've got a couple of glasses. This is just the front and the back of this beautiful glass that they make. And there's something on here that talks about the Wipers Times on here, which we'll talk about. They actually made a movie based on the Wipers Times, and we'll talk a little bit about it, okay? But let's talk about the beer first. Okay, so I'm going to tell you now, I'm going to have to get a fresh one of these, okay? The beer has started to turn, which is sad, but you're not getting the true quality of the beer out of this. It's still drinkable, but it's like right on the edge. So I do get the taste, still get the taste of like the roasted malts. It's got a sweetness for sure. I taste the coriander in there, and there's some kind of like sugar, strong sugar presence, which may be why it turned earlier than maybe it might have if it was a different different level of alcohol percentage. So if the alcohol percentage is a little bit higher, it might not have turned. But this is like right on that edge of turning, so it's not going to be a really good representation. But we'll talk about it anyway. Yeah, it's definitely not fully turned, so you can still get the taste of it, but it's definitely right on that teetering edge. It's a couple years past its prime, let's put it that way. Its prime would have been probably 2 or 3 years ago, and for a brown ale, they don't age as good as the higher octane ones, so that might be why. I bought it not realizing that it was out of date. So, you live and you learn. But anyway, while we're doing this, let's just go ahead and talk about the brewery, okay? Because the brewery's got a great history. Now, this brewery was founded in 2013 by the owners of St. Bernardus Brewing. His name is Hans de, I'm going to mispronounce his name, but Piper, or de Piper. I guess that's his name. He's the owner of St. Bernardus, which is a very famous brewery that I love. And also Rudy Geguire, who's the manager and the brewmaster at Rodenbach Brewery, which is another very famous Belgian brewery. So they went and they founded this brewery. And I think it's still run by the family. I don't know if it was his daughters, or it might have taken over the brewery, or they run the brewery on a daily basis. But very great brewery, and a really neat history of the brewery. The brewery is actually built into the walls of this town called it's Wipers. I think how they pronounce it is Y-P-R-E-S. So they call it Wipers, is I think the correct pronunciation of it. But the brewery is actually built within the walls, and there's tunnels and all this that are in there where they did this. Now, the reason there's all these tunnels in the wall it dates back to World War One, where the British actually were in there helping to guard the city, so the Germans did not, take it over. And the reason the Germans wanted this, not because the Belgians were actually on any side in that war, it's just the Germans wanted it because of its location to France. So, being in between the Germany and France, it was a prime location. So that's why the British were trying to help fortify that. And this on the glass here, where you see the Wipers Times, that was actually a publication that they wrote, like a satire type thing. One of the British military guys, I guess, he found a printing press, and he just started printing up this thing, which became very famous. And they actually made a movie out of the Wipers Times. There's a movie out there. I've never seen it, but I might have to put it on my bucket list of things to watch. The Wipers Time, and it talks about the time that they were, in this. And then this is the entrance to what's the brewery, actually to the wall. That's the wall there on the front. Okay, so anyway, very interesting history. I'm definitely going to have to do this beer again, so we can get a little bit more, kind of what this beer really is. I mean, because it's still good. I mean, even though it's not